Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I am going over my Week 9 NFL Power Rankings for the 2021 NFL season. I do this series on the channel every single week. It is my most popular series and most well-liked. So, if you guys like, make sure to like the video. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my content. 90% of the people who watch my videos actually aren't subscribed. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel yet and you enjoy my content, then make sure to do that. Be part of the first 1,000. We're only 29 away. So be one of the next 29 subscribers and you'll be an OG first 1,000 subscriber. So with all of the advertisements and everything out of the way, let's get into it. First off, we have the dumpster fire as always. The Lions have taken control of the dumpster fire because they are now 0-8 after losing 44-6 to the Eagles. A lot of people thought the Lions might potentially win this game to get their first win of the season. They didn't. They were the first team ever to go 0-16, and they very well could be the first team ever to go 0-17. Moving on from the Lions, we have the Houston Texans. The Texans have won just one game this season, and that was Week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, another team that is down in the dumpster fire. All of the teams down here have had pretty dismal seasons, and most of them got their only win, if any wins, Week 1. The Jaguars only beat the Dolphins, and the Texans and Dolphins got both their wins Week 1, so all of these teams, like, some of them have put up a fight against some decent teams, but generally speaking, not very good. Next up, we have the New York Kinda tier. I do all of my power rankings in tiers, so this tier is kinda New York. The Falcons aren't New York, but they can be honorary New York for today. The Giants are at number 28, the Falcons are at 27, and the Jets are at 26. The Giants have had a really weird season. They've beaten the Saints, and they've lost to some really bad teams and some good teams. But they've had like the Jets and the Giants are just all over the place. Like, the Jets have beaten the Bengals and the Titans, but they'll lose to like the Falcons. The Falcons have beaten both of these teams, but they haven't really had any impressive wins. The Jets have had impressive wins, such as the Bengals and the Titans, and then the Falcons lost this week in a surprise game, in my opinion. I thought that they were going to beat the Panthers, but the Panthers ended up beating them, and that really hurt their chances of moving up for this week. So 28 we have the Giants, 27 we have the Falcons, and 26 we have the Jets. At 25 we have the Washington football team. Washington has played dismally this year. They've put up a fight in a couple of games, but they've really just played terrible, no matter who they're against. And the Broncos are in here just slightly higher than them because they really haven't done anything impressive either. The teams they've beaten include the Jets, the Giants, the Jaguars, and now Washington. All of their other games have been either blowouts or they played a close game against Cleveland because Cleveland was missing Baker Mayfield and their two starting running backs. As for the Bears, they started off 3-3, but they've lost 2 games since then, and both of them were pretty bad losses. They lost 38-3 to Tampa, and then they lost this week in an uninspiring fashion. So 23 we have the Broncos, 24 we have the Bears, and 25 we have the Washington football team. At 22 we have the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, much like the Broncos, started off 3-0, and then they went on to lose their next 3 games to become 3-3. But they won this week, making their team now 4-3. They played the Falcons, as I mentioned earlier, and they beat them. I wasn't expecting them to, but because they could, like, the Falcons are not an impressive team by any stretch of the imagination, but this could potentially be a turnaround point for the Panthers to try and make a run for the playoffs. I don't think it will be, but it's possible. That being said, the rest of this tier is basically based off of individual matchups. The 49ers beat the Eagles, and the Eagles beat the Panthers. All of these teams have had really weird seasons. The Eagles just came off of a 44-6 win over the Lions. A lot of people thought the Lions might upset them in that game, but they didn't. And the 49ers came up with a solid win this week over the Bears, a team that is just slightly below them, but just enough so that it makes sense. The 49ers lost to the Seahawks, who had Geno Smith at the time, I believe, and they've just had they had a strong start to the season because they played the Eagles and they played the Jaguars. They played some easy games. They played the Eagles and the Lions. But since then, they've lost almost, if not all of their games. They lost all of their games until today when they beat the Bears. So the 49ers are just super inconsistent, and they haven't beaten anyone impressive yet. The next category is kind of bad. These teams are kind of bad, but, like, not really. They all have the potential to make the playoffs, I believe. The Seahawks are missing Russell Wilson currently. He won't be back until Week 10. So I really don't know what kind of a team they have right now. They played a really good game this week against Jacksonville, but that's not saying much because it's Jacksonville. So even Geno Smith can beat Jacksonville because their only win is against Miami. They haven't won in the United States since Week 1 of last year. Like, the only win they've had since Week 1 of last year was in London. So whether or not the Seahawks have Geno Smith, a win over Jacksonville is very impressive. The Colts started off 0-3, and then they turned it around. They became 3-3, and now they are currently 3-4. They lost this week, and it wasn't an extremely surprising loss. I forgot who they played. I'm just going to be completely honest. I forgot who they played, but honestly, I think that they have a solid team. I think that they've been improving throughout the season. I think they're going to continue to get better. They played the Titans. The first time they played the Titans, it was a blowout. This time, it was a very close game. They were within 3 points. They tied it up at the end. But Tennessee is a very strong team. The Colts have had a very tough schedule this year, and they've played it very well. They've played every hard team that they've played against well, and they've won all of the games they were supposed to. At 17, we have the Chiefs. And I really wanted to put the Chiefs in the top half. I almost switched them with number 16, but I really can't do it right now. Their best win of the season was against the Browns Week 1, and the Browns are currently 4-4. And the Chiefs have lost to, their wins have not been impressive, and their losses haven't been impressive either. They lost to Tennessee 27-3 last week. That was the first time ever that Patrick Mahomes-led offense has not scored a touchdown. And their defense is the worst in the league. I really want to put Kansas City higher, I really do. But I just don't think that I'm going to see anything to put them higher anytime soon. Especially not this weekend against the Giants. Even if they beat the Giants, it's the Giants. It's another unimpressive win. Whoop-de-doo. I don't know. The next category is the wild card watchers. In this one, we have the Steelers at 12, the Patriots at 13, the Chargers at 14, Browns at 15, and the Vikings at 16. All of these teams are currently fighting for the wild card in their conference. Out of the 4 AFC teams here, 2 of them will likely make a wild card spot unless the Kansas City Chiefs make it in. These 4 teams and the Chiefs are really fighting for the 2 wild card spots. In the NFC, the Vikings are currently the 7th seed, or they're currently fighting for the 7th seed. I think that they are most likely to get the 7th seed, but the Panthers are, I think, currently the 7th seed because the Vikings lost today. So the Panthers are currently in the 7th seed, but I think the Vikings have a more possible route than the Panthers do. The Panthers have a very tough schedule, being in a division with the Saints and the Buccaneers. So at 16, we have the Vikings. They've played a solid season. They've played some good teams well. They beat Russell Wilson. But then they lost today to Dallas's backup quarterback who's never played a snap before. So that's kind of not great. I know Dallas is a very strong team, but their quarterback hasn't played a snap of the NFL before. So that's a little concerning. I had the Vikings at 13 above the Patriots. But simply because the Patriots played Dallas really well and brought Dak Prescott to overtime, and the Vikings couldn't even do that against their backup quarterback, the Vikings dropped a little bit. They're also the lowest record team on this list. I don't usually like going by records, but because they are the lowest record here, and they're coming off of a loss to a quarterback that's never played a game before, that bumped them down just a little bit. At 15, we have the Cleveland Browns. The Browns had a very strong start to the season. They've slowed down quite a bit. I believe they started off 4-2. They are now, I think they were 3-1. Their only loss being to Kansas City. Now they're 4-4. So they haven't had a very solid second stretch of the season. That being said, they just came off of a loss to Pittsburgh. Kareem Hunt is out, but Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield were both in. They were both out last week when they beat the Broncos, but they were both in for this week, and a full-strength Cleveland team, not full strength, but an almost full-strength Cleveland team lost to the Steelers. And that being said, I just need to drop them a little bit. I think that their team is potentially playoff caliber, but they need to put the pieces together, and the pieces just aren't there right now. At 14, we have the Chargers. The Chargers were, I believe, 11 last week. They dropped 3 spots this week with a loss to the New England Patriots. Last week, they lost 34-6 to the Ravens. This week, New England beat them 27-24. The Patriots overall, I think, just completely played better in that game. We made a lot of awful mistakes, and there were some really bad ref calls. And even with all of that, we still ended up winning the game. I wasn't too confident going into this game, but I thought we had a decent chance of winning after how we played against both Dallas and the Buccaneers. I think that we've had a tough schedule, and our loss to Miami was inexcusable week 1. But Mac Jones has gotten better and better every week, and I'm excited to see him play for the rest of the season. I have the Patriots at 13. I think that's slightly optimistic, but we brought the Cowboys to overtime. We lost by 2 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We beat the Chargers. The only game that didn't really go to plan was the Chargers game. It was the Dolphins game, and that was the first game that Mac Jones ever played in the NFL. So I think that that's a slightly excusable game. And at 12, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, I wasn't expecting much from this year, but they've proven me wrong. They've won a few solid games in a row, including this win over Cleveland this week, and I think that they've gotten better and better throughout the season. At 11, we have the Ravens. 10, we have the Bengals, and at 9, we have the Raiders. These 3 teams were most of this category last week. I think the Bengals were 1 up, but now they're all here. They're all here. The Bengals were bumped down to the Moody Teenagers category because they lost to the Jets. Like you can't destroy the Ravens 41-17 and then lose to the Jets the next week. That's not how football works. Same thing with the Ravens. They can't blow out the Chargers 34-6 and then lose to the Bengals 41-17. And then the Raiders are just the Raiders. They're just weird. All of these teams are weird. They're all playoff teams, but they're all like freaking weird. Okay. None of these teams have any idea what is going on. They just kind of like go out there and they either score points or they don't, and there's not really like a middle ground. It's like either you completely destroy your opponent or you get absolutely demolished, and it does not matter who you're playing against. So yeah, I think all 3 of these teams are playoff teams. 2 of these teams are leading their division, but they're all very confusing to me, and I have no idea anything about where to put them, so they're just all together. Next category, we have the Super Bowl contenders. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 6-2. We have the Saints at 5-2. We have the Bills at 5-2, and we have the Titans at 6-2. All of these teams have had their good games and their bad games. The Bills haven't had quite as many bad games as the other teams here, but they've all had their good games. Tampa lost twice this season, once to the Rams, and this week to the Saints. The Saints have lost twice this year to the Panthers and the Giants. Not sure how that one works. Yet they beat Tampa Bay with Trevor Siemian, who hasn't played a snap in the NFL for 4 years. And then the Titans lost to the Jets. I mean, all of these teams are Super Bowl contenders. The Titans have beaten the Bills. The Titans have played really strong games recently. They beat the Chiefs 27-3. Tampa Bay beat the Cowboys. They beat the Patriots. They've had some blowouts to some really bad teams. They've played solid football. The Saints have beaten the Buccaneers with a backup quarterback. They beat the best team in the league, the Green Bay Packers, 38-3. and then they lost to the Giants and the Panthers. And then the Bills are just kind of like chilling. They've lost 2 games to some good teams, and then they kind of like beat up on some bad ones. Yeah, they lost to the Steelers, and they lost to the Titans, and then all of their other games they were just kind of like beating up on like teams with 0 wins, like the Dolphins and the Texans. So I think all of these teams are very strong, but they're definitely not elite teams right now. They're all playing very good football, but they're not consistent enough. They're more consistent than the Moody Teenagers, but they're not consistent enough to make it to the elite. In the NFL's elite, we have the Packers, the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Cowboys. A lot of people might say the Cardinals should be number 2 since they beat the Rams, but I've seen more consistency out of the Rams in the past few games. The Cardinals have had some really close calls, especially against the Vikings, and they had a really close call against like a team that wasn't that great too. The Jaguars was a really close game for a while, which was weird. But yeah, no, they've beaten some really good teams really bad. But this week, losing to the Green Bay Packers, who were missing their top 3 wide receivers, was kind of rough. The Packers were missing all 3 of their starting wide receivers. They brought people in off of the practice squad, and then the Cardinals were conducting a game-winning drive, and Kyler Murray throws it in the end zone, and AJ Green is just looking the wrong direction, and someone off the Cardinals practice squad catches the game-winning interception. I mean, Arizona, like, they might be the second or best team in the league right now, especially considering their only loss was because AJ Green was not even looking for the football on the last drive of the game. But they lost to the Packers, who were missing their top 3 wide receivers. That doesn't tell us much about Arizona. That just tells us the Packers are amazing. I mean, they beat the only undefeated team in the league without Devontae Adams, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, or Allen Lazard. So... And then the Cowboys are just kind of like sitting there at number 4. Like, they've beaten a bunch of bad teams. And then they beat the Vikings this week with their backup quarterback. They're arguably number 3. But the Cardinals have just beaten some more solid teams throughout the season. The Cardinals have they beat the Rams by 17. They beat the Titans by 21. Like, they've had some really solid games in there. So... The Rams are just more consistent right now, so the Rams are slightly above the Cardinals, but these are definitely the 4 best teams in the league right now. I have no doubt about it. And yeah, those are my power rankings for this week. It's kind of doing like a more laid back and like casual conversation type like video for this, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Help us get to 1,000. We're really close. And comment down below what you guys think. Comment your power rankings down below. I will see you guys all in the next one. Peace.